I'm here with Joe, who's the president of Tesla Owners Singapore Club.
Hi.
Whoa! Wow! Welcome back to Investing with Daren. Today I've got Joe Nguyen with me today, who is the president of the Tesla Owners Club of Singapore. And in today's topic, I'll talk Tesla with Joe, specifically about adoption and also tech. So let's dive right into it. If you like this channel and want to watch more interviews, do hit the like button, click subscribe to support us. Joe,
Hi, Daren.
who
Thanks
are
for
you?
having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Who am I? I'm an American, but I've been here for 28 years. I've lived in Singapore longer than I've lived in any other city or country.
That's a really long time. I'm originally from Malaysia. I've been here for 13 years, so that's more than double the time that I've been here. I'm a Tesla shareholder, and I always believe that the best way to understand a company is to speak with the users of the company's products and services. And there are very few people in Singapore who have a deeper and longer relationship with Tesla than Joe.
No one, I would think, just me.
Just Joe.
No one longer than
No
me.
one else. So this is a good opportunity to really dig deep and understand. Thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself. Curious, are you also a Tesla investor?
I was in the early days. I think I put money in around 2013, and it was like 35 bucks.
Wow.
Right? And then I think I sold at 60. Literally like a year later, I'm like, yeah, I looked at the numbers, I looked
Good
at the
gains.
earnings, I looked at everything. I'm like, yeah, 60 is a good number. And I almost doubled my money. So I was like, happy, sold it. And,
Wow.
and bought in and out a few times since then. But you know what I mean? I missed that early, like 35 bucks, which would have gone up 400 times by now or something.
Whoa. So getting in early, some people will say like it's not just timing the market, but time to market also plays a big role. Very few of us have a crystal ball to accurately predict the highs and lows. We really want to start talking with you first about adoption, because it's very well documented that you are the first Tesla Model S owner in Singapore, all the way back in 2015. Big hurdles to overcome. And Tesla is not available in every country yet. Looking back over the years, reflecting on your experiences, what advice would you give to other early pioneers like yourself in other countries who want to bring in EVs, whether they're Teslas or not?
Yeah, I think in the early days, you kind of have to take a risk. Right? For me, I knew that there was no Tesla here. It's a new kind of car, new kind of technology. So then if anything happened, I would not be able to service it here, or unlikely. Beyond the tires, beyond the brakes, beyond the basic stuff, I wouldn't be able to service here. So I had to take the punt, if you will, that if something happened, I'd have to, ship it somewhere else, which I did, twice I shipped it to Hong Kong, back to Hong Kong to get it serviced when it was really bad. Basic stuff was okay. But yeah, you kind of have to do that. But the basic things like charging was straightforward. It's electric, right? So you can charge anywhere. Distribution is actually everywhere. It's more well distributed than, say, petrol stations.
Yes.
Right. So I was able to charge at home, so that made it a lot easier. So adoption of EVs in other markets, yeah, you might have taken the punt on it, but nowadays it's moved on, as in it's more mainstream.
Yeah.
It's not just Tesla. It's NIO, BYD, Volvo's in the game, BMW's in the game, right? So there are more companies doing it. So I would say it's a lot less risky, and the technology is more mature.
It's almost like we're in an inflection point where EVs are really coming mainstream. Right now, today, less than 3% of the cars on the road are EVs. As Singapore thinks about adopting EVs, the government has put in plans. A recent Ernst & Young survey poll that they did showed that 53% of Singaporeans would buy EVs as their next car. So that seems promising. My question to you, Joe, is what are the biggest risks to Tesla adoption in Singapore that you see?
Tesla itself,
Yes.
I think the supply chain, the chips that are currently in shortage right now, they're making them. They're making a lot of them right now. I think the brand is there. Consumers like the brand, like to associate with the brand, because it was the first that really pushed EVs and pushed sustainable transportation. And that brand will continue to grow. The other thing that would slow them down would be the models that they come out with, right? So right now it's only the Model 3
Yeah.
that's being sold. By the end of the year, they should start taking orders for the Model Y,
Okay.
which is the other slightly larger than the Model 3, and then the Model S and X maybe next year and all that stuff. So consumers want big sedans. They
Yes.
want they're not going to compromise for a small car for
Yes.
like say a blue SG, right?
Yes.
They want their SUV type. They want their sedans, larger sedans. So
I want to double click on two things. First, starting with brand. Tesla and Elon Musk made EVs sexy, made them really cool. Their cars are literally sexy. Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y. One of the big selling points is Teslas are the fastest production cars on earth, and they're also the safest cars on earth. Yet, Singapore is already a relatively safe place to drive. So how much does brand messaging resonate in Singapore? Or what's going to be different about it here?
Tesla doesn't do a lot of marketing. They use the car to brand itself. I mean, they're as a company, they brand themselves as sustainable energy and transportation. And so, I would love to see the solar. I would love to see the power walls here because I would get a power wall instantly and hook up solar panels to it, right? So that's the brand that is global and sustainable with consumers, as in it's sustainable transportation and energy.
In an interview a couple of years ago, when people asked Elon Musk, how come you don't really advertise much? He said that when people go to a party, they don't talk about things they like, they talk about things they love. And most people who are Tesla owners love a Tesla. We see in many countries there are also like official clubs, like you're the president of the Tesla Owners of Singapore Club. What are these clubs? They're obviously a great way of actually driving word of mouth for Tesla. But what role does these clubs play, and what's your vision for this in Singapore?
As a club, we advocate the sustainable transport values that Tesla encompasses. The interesting thing is everyone wears what they represent on their sleeve, and
Yes.
this is just how a Tesla owner is. Right? So it's a statement. It's just like actually remember when the Prius first came out, and
that
like
was cool.
Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of stars in Hollywood had those, right?
Drove him down the Oscars.
Yeah, and now it's here so people can represent, right?
Yes.
What they a brand that talks to them about sustainability, and we're right now it's climate change and a number of issues coming out. As a club, we also get together events. We want to advocate EVs as a whole and sustainability as a whole. And we will do we'll help do test drives. We'll help people show people around and just talk to them more about EVs in general as well as Tesla.
Who can join this club? Like, is it Tesla owners only? Or how about enthusiasts?
We have two tiers. So one is called Chill tier, which is for anyone that's just interested to just join, right? And owners are at the performance level. Yeah, and so that's equal to two tiers. So anyone can join.
Thank you. So like me, I don't have a driver's license yet. I'm studying right now in Bukit Batok Driving Center. So I'm in the enthusiast tier. And the second point you mentioned earlier, Joe, about models. So right now, the main model in Singapore is the Model 3. Recently, Elon Musk remarked that he believes the Model Y will actually be the world's best-selling car as close as next year. Do you see Model Y resonating a lot in Singapore as well? What's your take? So Model Y is Tesla's mid-size SUV.
I think the Model 3 would do fine here, better than the Model Y. Singapore's smaller. The car park spaces are a bit smaller. I personally would want the Model Y, right,
Okay.
over the Model 3.
I see.
But I think they'll be very comparable in terms of volume here. But I think the Model 3 will probably be more sought after here.
It is a slightly lower profile. The pricing is a bit lower as well, and the controls are also a bit more sporty compared to the Model Y. How would you see Singapore being a role model or just a model for EV adoption in Southeast Asia?
I think the start of the policy of the number of charging stations that they want by 2040, I think was to push out that whole infrastructure build it before then they would come.
Yes.
That, from a government perspective, is I think leading. If you think about how many EVs there are in Hong Kong and how many chargers there are in Hong Kong versus what it is like in Singapore right now, the government there doesn't really, incentivize that much, but this one does. And I think if other governments want to do this, they would need to look towards that kind of incentive. I think there's still a lot of teething issues with what's here, which is, I think as we work through them, other countries will learn from it. Right?
Yes.
Whether it's a road tax system, the insurances, and all that stuff. As we do it first, they'll catch up.
And what Joe was mentioning is Singapore's Land Transport Authority, the LTA. They've put out publicly that by 2030, they're going to install 60,000 EV charging stations, 40,000 in public car parks, 20,000 in private premises, which is, again, a very big commitment and long-term vision from a government, as Joe was mentioning. And when we think about adoption, I think a lot of questions about range anxiety, you talked about it in earlier interviews, like your current Tesla has, I think, more than 300 kilometers mileage, so it can last you a couple of days. And right now, for most of people who are staying in public housing, which is Singapore, like more than 80% of the population is still in HDBs. What's your advice or perspective to them? Like, should they wait? Should they go ahead now?
To my point earlier, Hong Kong currently has 12,000 or so electric cars, and they have about 2,000 charging stations for all of Hong Kong. Singapore currently has around 1,500 EVs and around 1,800 charging stations. It's a matter of understanding the new, how you would operate, like where's the nearest charger to you or to your office, and where you're going, and just plug in when you need to. And once you have that schedule down, it's just and it's going to get easier as there'll be more of them around.
Yes.
Right. But at the moment, it's the people who are currently owning. I ask them, like, I just know my pattern now. I just know that I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there, and I just plug the car in. And it's significantly cheaper, so it's actually cost saving.
With so much going for EVs, is there actually a case where somebody shouldn't buy an EV?
In the U.S., for example, it's always been like if you're going to go for long drives, if you and you need that, you make sure that you're always, there's a petrol station around, especially when in between cities and stuff like that. In Singapore, we're quite small, right? You're not going to go far. If you plan to go to Malaysia, that's something that you would want to consider. Malaysia is actually setting up a lot of EV charger stations, particularly along the North-South Highway.
I see.
And around. But yeah, that is something you want to think about. And also the other issue with cross-country stuff is compatibility of chargers and all that stuff. So there's other things. I think maybe because of Singapore, other markets will standardize around what we do, which is the Type 2 chargers or the CCS chargers.
Thank you for that perspective. Now I want to pivot to talk tech. See, some people see Tesla as a tech company, not just an automotive company. Elon Musk believes that the energy business will be bigger than automotive in the next few years. And in 3 weeks from this recording, they're actually going to have their AI Day on 19th of August, where Elon Musk is trying to recruit the best AI talent in the world. One of the unique features for Tesla is that your cars get software updates, over-the-air software updates, just like how we update our iPhones. How, in your experience, like owning a Model S here in Singapore now for 6 years, how significant have these software updates been that you really notice the changes?
I mean, when I first got it, I didn't have Spotify, right? And a couple years later, I can get Spotify. I have TuneIn, so I can get radio stations from all over the world. The interface has changed a couple times. The Easter eggs have been kind of funny as well. My car is old. It is now 6 years old, right? 7 years old, actually. It still gets updates, but there's only so much it can do because of hardware. What Tesla's done that's interesting, even starting from my car version and on to the Model 3 and S and going forward, is the UX and the UI. That's the tech. Right? Yes, there are CPUs, there's tons of stuff, there's a huge screen, all that stuff. but they take a lot of time in understanding how to use that, simple screen. New cars come up, and I've heard that like the new Mercedes has this like huge dashboard all
Yes.
across everything and buttons everywhere and all that stuff. Whereas Tesla just reduces everything down to one screen,
Yes.
right? Which
I have a friend who wants to get a new Mercedes, so shout out to you, Richard. Please watch this interview.
yeah, and you'd think that okay, it's complicated. You would think that it's putting everything on one interface is
Yeah.
complicated, but look at your phone.
Yes.
Right, we've been accustomed to using a phone with windows and apps and tons of stuff everywhere. So this, for most people, is going to be actually much simpler interface. So and that UI and that UX, their focus on that is, I thought that they would have lost that edge a few years ago, but they haven't, because car manufacturers don't know software.
Yes.
Software and UI, right, and UX, right? They're focused on sort of maybe the back CPUs and stuff like that, tuning the cars with that, but they don't understand consumers, experience as well.
And Elon Musk recently remarked, like most automotive companies, they're still in the very hardware-focused automotive world. The one company he mentioned that is trying to go hard in the software is Volkswagen, interestingly. What is your favorite new software feature or bug fix in the past few years?
My car doesn't get much crazy updates, anything like that. I think it's the Easter eggs that I still get. More a few games in there. Mars, so I can put Mars as a map on that stuff. The Christmas thing, Easter egg, is funny, where the icon for my car turns into Santa. And there's also fart mode, where my kids love it because, or guests love it. So they get in the car and I make them fart, because the speakers are actually, I can zone just where the noise comes from.
I see. That's really
right?
cool.
Which is, it's a UX thing. It's like in the old cars, you used to have the fader, right, on your speakers, right?
Yes.
You can do fader or balance.
Yes.
Right. In the Tesla, the interface is like this, and you're like, okay, I want the noise coming from that seat. I just push the button, and all the faders and the balance just focus on that, and I push the fart button, and that person farts.
That is super cool. Again, I understand this doesn't appeal to every single car driver, but for tech geeks, gadget lovers like some of us, wow, that is really something else. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And one of the things that we also know is that our cars are in a parking lot 90% of the time. So the utilization rate is very low. So Tesla has also been working on basically their self-driving technology, combining it with Uber's business model to eventually create a robotaxi fleet, kind of like an Uber without the driver, where if you're a Tesla owner, you could actually rent out your car, let it go, and let it be like an Uber and earn money for you. What's your take on robotaxis?
I think that it will happen. It'll take time for the autonomous driving. The transition to that is quite interesting. As a car becomes autonomous, and I buy a car and it comes with, say, full autonomy, which is still far away, still like I would say 5 years away for full autonomy. I buy that car and I still like driving, but then I start to do other things and I start to hit the auto button more often. At a certain point, why would I buy another car? Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not driving anyway.
Yes.
And the next generation that grows up not with the driving vibe, right? Because I grew up driving. I've always, driving was part of how you sort of freedom and all that stuff. But the younger generation, when you grow up, you don't have that. Driving is just to get from one place to another.
Yeah.
Why do you want a car? To own a car.
It goes from like a rite of passage to something more functional. It's kind of like how in 1900s, like most people had a horse carriage, and now if you want to ride horses, it's purely for fun, for recreation.
Yeah.
So some people believe that the fun of driving will still be around as a recreation, but for the vast majority, it's going to be a functional benefit.
Transport. Yeah. And then why would you want to own a horse? Not you can still
Let's go rent one.
Go rent a horse or whatever, or go to a farm, right? But yeah, so I think ownership would change. I would say it takes longer because autonomous will be longer.
So, like a few things are converging. One, EVs make sense, they're better for the environment, governments are driving it, and also autopilot technology or self-driving technology is improving, which will come to a point where taxi fleets or ride-hailing fleets may want to adopt EVs or Teslas, say here in Singapore. What is your outlook on that?
I think the first thing is the autonomous driving. Right, that's still far away. You could do autonomous driving with petrol cars, right? So there's slightly separate technology. This is why Elon Musk is going to talk about AI, because they're employing a lot of AI in that autonomous driving
Yeah.
system, and that when that takes off, there are many issues that has to be resolved still. The liability issue, like if it gets into an accident, who's responsible, and if it hits somebody or whatever, and when it will, things like
Yes.
that will happen. Regulations by governments, whether they accept it or not, each government will want to test it. Each government will want to make sure that it's fit for their road. Each government's LTA
Yeah.
will want to have their say in it. So I think it'll be market by market slowly, and there has to be enough manufacturers, not just one, that advocate for this, and obviously the companies around it, that, like Grab, for example, that may produce a whole fleet around it. Tesla will be the enabler. They're not going to necessarily operate the fleet. That's more local. I think could be ComfortDelGro.
It could be. They are venturing into tech. So I think big thing I'm hearing right now is that the adoption of EVs will come first, and then that self-driving automation, it may take another decade. It would lag behind. And even with Tesla's current full self-driving beta 9, they're only allowing a very small group of testers to test it, precisely because of liability, reputation. If you roll it out to 1 million people, the press is going to have a field day with that. You're a big Apple fan. You own the first iPhone, I believe.
Yep.
I'm also an Apple fan, and you're also a big Tesla fan, so you love gadgets and tech. What else today excites you like the iPhone and Tesla?
Health tech.
Health tech.
Yeah, I mean, I have a number. I'm starting to look into it right now. I mean, I don't know if you can see this. It's an Aura.
Tell us more. I'm not familiar.
It's
sorry.
a health. So you've heard of Whoop, right? And Fitbit,
Yes.
right? Fitness trackers, right?
And
So
an Apple Watch, if that counts.
yeah, I mean, I use that for the first Apple Watch. I had the first Apple Watch as well, and after a while, it doesn't do quite as well as the new Apple Watches. So I didn't buy another one. But Fitbit, right, was started the whole fitness tracking. The most popular one, I believe, at this moment is Whoop.
I see.
And then Aura has been coming up a lot, which is Whoop is like still a band,
Okay.
right? Whereas Aura is intentionally a sleep tracker.
Right.
It lasts for like 5 days, and it's a ring,
Mm.
and it tracks my sleep. It has all the readiness, all that stuff, connected to the phone, connected to everything, and it tells me every morning, like, what's my readiness status, and am I ready to do certain things, or I didn't sleep well last night. I didn't have enough REM sleep or deep sleep, that kind of stuff. That IoT is the next thing, whether it's health or other things. But for me right now, it's health. I'm even tracking how much water I drink, right? With this, a friend of mine just gave me this thing called Hydrate. It's got Bluetooth, and it tracks how much water I drink, and it tells me I need to drink more water each day.
That is huge. And again, the field of health tech, even genomics, as some of you follow, it's very, very significant. People are living longer. The world's getting a bit bigger. I'm going to link up to a video above on how Tim Cook also recently mentioned that Apple's greatest legacy is going to be in health and wellness, not the iPhone. So, for those of us watching, we believe into the mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, and we believe in EVs. What is one thing like a normal person can do right now to help support that mission? Like, is it buying an EV? Is it talking to their MP? What's your advice?
I think just think about your consumption in general, right? What you're doing, what you're eating, what you're driving, and all the stuff. And for the older folks, it's what you do, and that influences the younger generation, your kids, your children, because it's not we're looking at it climate change and all this stuff as a longer term solution.
Yeah.
So I think humans in general have to consume less and be, cleaner in the way they consume, more sustainable, and think about it that way.
Okay.
I think for everyone, they just need to think how, what they consume.
So be more mindful about our consumption. Reduce, reuse and recycle, as the Singapore government says. Last fun question. What will your next car be, Joe?
I don't know. I've been looking at the Model Y when it comes to Singapore, hopefully in the year. I have a reservation. I haven't converted it for the Model 3. I just haven't converted it, and I may do that. I've been looking at the Energetica SA9,
Not
which is
familiar with that, sorry.
it's electric motorcycle.
Okay,
I have a Class 2 license, 2A license,
I see.
and electric motorcycles. If you think about cars and you think about Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
a lot of motorcycles,
Yes,
and they just make them electric,
yes.
right? And there are companies that are doing that. So the one that's in Singapore, launched in Singapore early July, was this thing from Energetica. Right. So that's an interesting one as well. But yeah, I have free supercharging in my car for life. So essentially, when Tesla sets up with their superchargers, I don't have to pay for moving around anymore.
Wow,
So that's also a deterrent from me getting another car, because the new cars don't have that.
I see.
My car is because before 2017, any cars built before 2017 was grandfathered into the free supercharging for life.
Wow,
So that's a reason for me not to change cars.
that's a good reason to hold on to cars and again just consume less.
Yeah.
So with that, Joe, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Daren.
I've learned a lot. You've inspired me on again the future of what's possible, not just with Tesla but with EVs. And for those of you who are still watching, click the like button, hit subscribe so that you can stay updated on new interviews. Bye bye and see you in the next one.
Hi.
Thank you.
It's good.
Yeah, it was very, very helpful. Learned a lot.
Whoa! Lost a bit of grip there
Still, that was really fast.
initially.
That was a really quick
It's
acceleration.
not just an acceleration, right? When you start, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you want to go,
Wow,
right?
it's instant. It's
Yeah.
instant.
It's like now, and when I let go,
Yeah.
it slows down right away
Yes.
because they're regenerative,
Yes.
right? So I don't need to touch the brakes normally until I stop.
In an earlier interview a few years ago, you mentioned that was the biggest adjustment, just the regenerative braking. Don't really tap the brakes much, and you haven't changed the brakes in now 6 years now.
Yeah, I haven't changed the brakes at all.
Like those of us who are PC gamers, it's imagine like you're playing at like 120 frames per second. There's no lag. It's crazy. That's how fast acceleration is. Oh my goodness. Whoa.
And smooth, right? No noise.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. People expect noise. People
Yeah.
expect gear shift, change, and it's single gear, so there's no transmission and all this stuff. So it just keeps on, accelerating until you decide to stop.
Yes.